recording this session. Um, and we are going to get started on the first of a series of dissertation workshops for this year. And this first workshop is going to be just an overview of the dissertation process. And essentially, my aim is to spend maybe 15 to 20 minutes talking about uh, this topic and giving you an overview of the dissertation process. And then, the rest of the time we can use to answer any queries that you might have or any concerns. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the QR code, and I'm going to start sharing my slides. Now, I just wanted to point out that these slides are also available on Blackboard. So if you look on the Blackboard site, there is a tab on your left called PGT Workshop Slides, and you can find these slides there. Okay. And of course, this session has been recorded, and you can go back and look at the recording. And I'm going to send you guys a video shortly of how to access recordings in case you are not aware of that. Okay, so let's get started. So this is, as I mentioned, this is the introduction to the dissertation. So I'm going to talk about what this dissertation is. So what are our expectations of what you should be doing for the dissertation, and I'm going to give you an overview of the time frame of the dissertation, meaning what do you have to do when in the dissertation cycle. And then I'm going to mention a couple of things about submitting your dissertation proposal, which is not your actual dissertation. So this is just what you want to work on, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then I'm going to sort of talk a little bit about the workshops we have. And I'm going to finally end with a little bit of advice as to what I think you should be doing to perform well in the dissertation. Okay, so so what is the dissertation? So as you might well know, whether you are in an academic and professional program or you are in an applied training program, you will have to write a dissertation which is worth 60 credits. So this is not a 20 credit module, this is a 60 credit module, and you've got to write a dissertation in summer. And so we like to think of the economic dissertation as sort of the icing on the cake of your MSc, right? And this is a module that is where you can bring together all of the different skills and techniques and knowledge that you have learned throughout your degree and basically apply these and research a particular topic. All right. So think of the dissertation like an extended essay, but instead of an essay where you basically write about a topic that is sort of standard, here you got to do a little bit of work on your own. You have to make a little bit of original contribution. It doesn't have to be, sort of very, very novel. We don't expect that from you at this stage, but it has to be something where you basically show your initiative and you get a opportunity to bring all of the things that you have learned and apply them on one specific topic. So it's also like a showcase of the skill sets that you've learned. So you can also think of the dissertation in that sense. So essentially what you will be doing is you will be spending about 2 to 3 months working on a topic with an assigned supervisor. All right. So you will have a member of staff to kind of guide you and hold your hand somewhat through the process. But essentially, this is something that you have to do on your own. You have to come up with some idea and work on that. Okay. So that is what you do in the summer. And I think this is a nice time to talk a little bit about this module time frame. So essentially, what we are doing now and what we are going to do for most of the spring semester, like February, March, is we are going to have a number of these compulsory workshops. So this is the first workshop where I sort of give you an overview of what the dissertation is, but you'll have others such as accessing data, how to search the literature in the library, how to reference materials, okay, how to do some qualitative data analysis, okay. So you'll have all of these compulsory workshops, and using the knowledge that you've gained in your um, course so far and what you gain from these workshops, um, you're going to come up or you'll have to submit a research proposal which mentions a question that you would like to look at. Uh, Now, as I mentioned earlier, this doesn't have to be, some sort of Nobel Prize winning idea. It has to be sufficiently original for a dissertation at your level, but this has to be something which you feel sort of comfortable and able to do. Okay. And so it's your responsibility to actually mention what you want to do, and you are encouraged to speak to your module conveners, or other people, to come up with these ideas. But then, finally you submit the research proposal on your own. um, and basically, you will have to submit. So the research proposal is basically where you just mention, sort of the broad topic that you would want to work on. At this stage, it doesn't have to be very well thrashed out. So roughly an idea. So let's say you want to work uh, on looking at researching the efficient market hypotheses, let's say in finance for certain markets. So just mention that broad idea, right? And so basically what you have to do is you have to think of some and you uh, are going to basically fill in this dissertation proposal form, all right? And if you look on the dissertation module site, there's a tab called the dissertation proposal form on your left, and there's a form there. It's a Word form, and you've got to fill in the form, and you have to email that form to this email here, which is the ecoreception@uea.ac.uk. And the deadline for doing that is sometime before the Easter break. So before we break for Easter, you basically submit the form, and the deadline is 23, so 20th of March. All right. So the one thing to keep in mind is, you are on different courses, right? So basically, the topic that you pick up for your dissertation, the topic that you propose in the form for your dissertation, should be aligned with the course in which you are enrolled, right? So because you are trying to be an expert in your specific area, we would expect that the topic of your dissertation should be broadly in that area. And of course, as I mentioned, you can discuss with your module conveners or your supervisors. You will be assigned supervisors shortly. You can sort of discuss with them um, what exactly it is that you want to do later on. All right. And so, since this is the case, you have to be careful about entering the course in which you are enrolled in the form, right? So, in the form, there is a field where you have to mention the course in which you are enrolled. For example, MSc Business Finance and Economics, or MSc Economics, and so on and so forth. So, you basically have to mention that course, and then you put in a topic which is broadly in alignment with the title of that course. Okay, and please remember to email it to eco reception and not email it to me. So I have nothing to do with this form. You have to email it to this eco reception email address. Okay, and yeah, so that is basically how you propose a dissertation topic. But remember, at this stage, so the proposal that you submit by 20th of March, that doesn't need to be very well thrashed out, right? So don't get worried about submitting a like a well thought out dissertation proposal. So when you look at the form, it says what methodology are you going to use, and so on and so forth. So don't be scared with that, right? So at this stage, you just need to give me or give eco reception like a broad topic that you are interested in, and then later on, you can make modifications, you can make changes to that topic, the specific area you want to research. So the point that I'm trying to make is this is by no means cut and dried. So if you submit a proposal by the 20th of March, then there's no going back, and you are being held to it. So there's a lot of flexibility built in, but we have to assign supervisors to you after you come back from Easter. And so it is important that I assign a supervisor to you based on the course of your choice, right? And based on the topic of your choice. And so for that process, we need to have this in place. Okay. So so that's everything about the PGT dissertation proposal. I am just going to maybe pause for a bit and ask you if you have any questions of what I've said so far. So, you can either shout out your questions, or you can, sort of type them in the chat. So any questions about the module time frame or the submission of the PGT proposal, dissertation proposals? So feel free to ask any questions that you may have, and please get all your doubts clarified from me in this session. Uh, okay, so when's the deadline for dissertation submission? Yes, so that usually is the end of August. So you will be getting emails about this, but usually it is the 31st of August. Okay. Um, can we write about anything, or are the topics given to us? No. As I said, it is your, so you have to come up with a topic, right? Your supervisor, you have to come up with a broad idea of a topic. Sometimes when you go and talk to your supervisor, they might give you some other ideas, which can either be a completely new topic, or it can be maybe a modification of your topic. Usually what happens is that you propose something, and then your supervisor gets back to you and says, well, look, this is too ambitious, why don't we change a little bit of this and that. And then there is like a middle ground which you hit, right? But as I mentioned, it is your responsibility to come up with a topic, but you will have a lot of help um, changing or modifying the topics once you're assigned a supervisor. Where are the topics? Well, again, as I mentioned, this is something which you will have to come up with. Okay, and this is not that this is not a very this should not be a very taxing exercise. This should be something that you should enjoy working on. All right, so anything that interests you within your course subject is something that you can work on. Okay, how many words is the dissertation? um, so it is for, if you are in an AP program, it is 12,000 words. If you are in an AT program, it is 8,000 words. Will we get a new supervisor for our dissertation? Yes. So there's a difference. So I think the confusion is, there is a difference between, so you've been assigned academic advisors, right? You haven't been assigned supervisors. You will be assigned supervisors depending on your course and your proposal. So when you submit your dissertation proposal by 20th of March, I'm going to go back and I'm going to assign supervisors to you. All right. And then uh, you're going to be working with that person, and you're going to come up and write your own dissertation. Is there an option to find your own supervisor within your course area if there is someone that you want to work with? And this is actually more relevant for, I would say, AP rather than AT programs. You can have a word with them and see if they are willing to supervise you. But please remember that not everyone will be supervising students. All right. So there are only a few people in the school who are involved in the supervisory process. So uh, you might want to sound the person that you want to work with on that. Okay. All right. This is very good. So keep the questions coming. So any other questions? I don't have much material, so I can spend a lot of time answering your questions. The one thing I would like to emphasize is that this should by no means be a very taxing process. So this is a process that has created a lot of tension in earlier years, right? So students get very anxious about the dissertation. But as long as you follow all of the advice, attend the workshops, and work closely with your supervisor, you should be fine. Okay. Where can we read dissertations from previous years? Um, there is a site on Blackboard where, so this is the eco student zone, I think, or so there is a site where you can access previous year's dissertations, and I'm going to send you a link to that site in an announcement or email. Sure. Any other questions? Okay, so if there are no other questions, then let me proceed. And so let's come to this topic about the dissertation workshops. So, this is the first workshop. This is sort of an introductory workshop, and you will have other workshops. Now, what we have been made aware of is that a lot of these workshops are clashing with the timetables of some of you. And so I have directed all staff that are going to be um, offering these workshops to record the workshops. I mean, I've made a request, and I'm assuming that all of these workshops will be recorded. So there's a chance for you to come back and listen to them if you cannot attend the workshops for any particular reason. And of course, all of the slides of the workshops, which are very, very clear in of themselves, will be available on the module site. So you can always take a look at these slides. Now, apart from these compulsory workshops that you're going to be having um, in February and March, there'll also be a series of uh, workshops on econometrics and stata in June and July, right? And those will be offered by Peter Moffat and Joel Clovis. And those are not compulsory, those are optional, but I would encourage you to attend those workshops. So, that is the exact time on which you are working on the dissertations, and so to have that sort of help at that time is going to be invaluable, and you're going to learn a lot as well. I mean, not just for your dissertation, but also these data analytic skills are very, very important in the job market. So these are workshops that are in June or July. Um, so please keep space to attend these dissertation workshops. And when you look at the PDF of my presentation, if you click on this, so this is not going to work here because I'm kind of sharing the slides, but if you click on this red area, this PGT dissertation workshops, there's a hyperlink, and that gets you to a list of all of the workshops. But I have to add that the dates that I've mentioned are tentative. So these dates are going to change, right? So today's workshop was actually rescheduled thrice before we ended up in like 21st of Feb. So please check your latest timetables when you attend the workshops. And if you have any trouble, please send me an email, right? Or you can come and talk to me, um, either in person or on Teams. Okay. So my email address is with this. So if you look at the very first sort of the cover slide, you'll find my email address there, and it's hyperlinked. So you can just click on that when you look at the original PDF and send me an email, and then we can arrange to meet if you're having trouble. Okay. So now let me go back to the sort of the module time frame. So basically, okay, so you've submitted your proposal on the 20th of March. Okay, so now what happens? So basically, on the basis of your proposal, and this is the reason why your proposal and your course, these should be aligned, right? So if you are on, let's say, the international business finance and economics, your topic should have something to do with international business finance and economics, right? And so based on your proposal, there's going to be a suitable supervisor that's going to be allocated to you, and you will come to know about your supervisor after the Easter break. So after the Easter break, I'm going to send you an email with an Excel file, and on that Excel file, you're going to have a name of your assigned supervisor. Okay. So that is going to happen after the Easter break. Now, based on that list, you're going to get in touch with your supervisor, and you're going to have meetings with them to help you guide through the dissertation process. And these meetings are going to take place between May and July. And there has to be at least 3 meetings. So the supervisor required to offer you at least three 1-hour sessions. And these could either be one-on-one meetings or they could be group meetings. And your supervisor will tell you which sort of format they're going to go for, right? And as I mentioned, this is going to be 3 hours. In the first meeting, usually there is going to be some sort of general kind of advice being discussed, what you should be doing, and how you should go about researching topics. Sometimes, your supervisor may actually give you some topics. If you're not able to find out a suitable topic, you can sort of talk to them, and they can give you like something that you can broadly work on. Although, you have to, of course, develop that idea and come up with a dissertation on your own. And then you work on it. And essentially, by the time you have your third and final meeting, you should have some sort of draft of your dissertation, right? And then your supervisor is going to provide some feedback, and usually there's a bit of back and forth. And then, you take that feedback on board and you submit a final dissertation. And someone was asking me about the deadline. Well, the deadline is the end of August, so usually the 31st of August. Now, you might get an extension for this, and if you get an extension, you can submit in September and October. And as I mentioned earlier, it's 8,000 words for the ATP and 12,000 words for the APP. All right. So that is basically what you have to submit by the end of October. Okay. So that is basically everything that I have for you, apart from this other slide, which is just maybe some of my thoughts. Okay, so this is basically the module time frame. Um, I also already mentioned the computer lab workshops, which are very important. I think this is something which you should take on board. I've given you an overview of the module frame. So before we go to the final sort of slide, I'm going to once again stop and ask you if you have any sort of questions or queries or concerns, and you can ask me. So any questions so far? Well, your supervisor, your supervisor is going to advise you on that, right? On the marking criteria. Can we know the staff members available for student supervision? Okay. Well, not right now. I mean, I am not aware of. I'm going to try to see if I can get you a list of staff members. The best way to approach this is to basically ask, your favorite lecturer if they are available for supervision, and then they can advise you of that, right? They like, if they say that no, we don't have any supervision for this year, then unfortunately, they will not be able to supervise you. Does it have to be related to the modules we choose? It has to be related to the course that you are enrolled in. And obviously, since the course comprises of modules, and the modules are, the sort of the more granular structure from which you get your knowledge, then, in some ways, it has to be related to the knowledge that you get from your modules, right? Sophie is asking, does our supervisor mark our dissertation? The dissertation is double blind marked by two members of staff. Those could be anyone, right? And that marking is assigned by the school, but it's double blind, so so it's blind marking, so you would not know the names of the supervisors, of the people that are marking, of the graders who are marking your dissertation. Will there be a Q&A after we submit our dissertation? Uh, you mean the dissertation or the dissertation proposal? You mean the final dissertation, Damien, or do you mean the dissertation proposal? No. So after you submit your final dissertation, that is the end of the cycle. All right. Then it is basically your supervisors will be grading it, and then sorry, yeah, the markers, there will be two markers that will be grading it, and then it's going to end up with the board of examiners, and the PGT board, and then it's going to go through that process, and then the marks are going to be finalized, right? So there are no Q&A after you submit your dissertations. Is the proposal just a brief outline? Yes, the proposal is essentially a brief outline. It does not have to be outlined in detail. The only requirement is that it be broadly in line with the course in which you are enrolled in, right? So this is a point that I'm emphasizing again and again. If you have chosen a specific specialism to specialize in, then we expect that your dissertation should also be in that broad area. That's just natural, right? Okay, good questions. I have to, sort of, we are getting a bit um, mixed up in the terminology, and I made a couple of errors as well. So there was a bit of a confusion about advisors and supervisors. Your advisor is different from your dissertation supervisor, who is different from your dissertation marker. So there are three different people, right? Your academic advisor is going to advise you on general academic matters. Your dissertation supervisor is going to give you help writing your dissertation, is going to give you some feedback, etc. And your dissertation marker, whom you will not know, is going to actually look at your dissertation. Yes, there is. But although there is a plus minus 10% buffer on the word limit, you are very, very strongly advised to stay under the word limit, right? If you are writing a 12,000 word dissertation, for example, um, you should be able to convey everything you want to convey within those 12,000 words. That is quite a, and even for the 80 dissertations, 8,000 words, good enough. Does it need to be linked to our modules? Um, so as I mentioned, suppose you take let me give you an example. So let's say that you are enrolled in global media economics, MSc Global Media Economics. So then we would expect that the proposal that you submit is going to be something on that topic, that sort of broad region of the course, right? So, some topic pertaining to that area. Now, obviously, since you are getting information about global media economics through the different modules that you are taking, such as, say, media economics or international trade, the topics that you're going to propose will actually in some ways be influenced by what you learn in your modules, right? Uh, so it has to be related, but it no you if there is a topic which has not been covered in your module, but it's still sort of in under the broad remit of, say, global media economics, you're allowed to, you know, sort of propose that in your proposal. So that is Edna's question. Edna, is that okay? Is that fine? So someone else has also asked me a similar question. Is this part clear? Does it have to be linked to our modules? Okay, good. Sophie says, does the proposal get marked? No, the dissertation proposal does not get marked. The proposal, the dissertation, of course, does get marked, and it's worth 60 credits. But the proposal is just something that you don't need to get too tensed about. Just make sure that the proposal is in sort of broad alignment with the course in which you're studying, right? Are we allowed a maths proof, etc. appendix, or does it come under? If you, so I will send out an email regarding the word count, James. There is a specific university rule about word count, what it covers, for example, footnotes, etc. So you will get detailed instructions on this. In general, if you relegate things to an appendix, that really doesn't get into the word count. William is asking, is the use of stata compulsory? No, the use of stata is definitely not compulsory. You can use any sort of statistical software that you are comfortable with. So if you want to use R or Python, you're very, very welcome to do so. However, our training, the training workshops will be all in Stata. So we are going to be focusing on Stata because that is what we teach you in your econometrics modules. Okay, guys, any other questions? And this is not the fact, so I'm going to offer this one session, but that doesn't mean that if you have problems you cannot. But please understand this very, very clearly. If you have any issues at all, you are very welcome to come and have a word with me. Okay, I might not be able to solve your problems immediately, but I can certainly direct you to the people who will be able to solve your problems. Okay, so please don't think that Jibo is going to only appear for this one session and then he's going to disappear. It's not going to happen, right? So you can always get in touch with me. You can always send me emails. Okay, any other questions, guys? Everyone happy so far? Is no one happy? Okay, so at least there's one person who is happy. Okay, good. So let's okay, thank you. Okay, so let's go to the last slide, and this is some general advice. I'm not the sort of person who likes to give a lot of advice, but I think I should basically maybe mention this to you once because I have some more experience than you. And different people work differently, so what is good advice for someone may not be good advice for someone else. But these points that I'm going to mention now kind of non-controversial, and I think it's going to benefit everyone. So I just put it under the rubric of how to do well in the dissertation, but I think this is sort of equally valid for anything that you do with your postgraduate degree. All right. So let me just talk a little bit through these points. So the first and most important advice is to basically start early, right? So you might think that August is a long way off and there is plenty of time to, kind of take care of the dissertation later. But I think that is not a very good way to think about things, because what's going to happen is that you will be quite busy with your coursework and then your exams and so on and so forth. And so if you don't start early, then you're going to have a lot of things to do at the same time, and you might be able to manage that. So you finish all of your coursework and your exams and then you start to really seriously work on your dissertation, but then it's going to be a very, very intense period of work, and you don't want to be doing that, right? So basically, if you want to do some sort of data analysis, get hold of the data, right? So one major problem with doing dissertations which are data driven is that you very often wait till the very last moment to get hold of the data, and then you find that the data is essentially incomplete, has lots of missing observations, or is not of very good quality. and then you want to sort of change it. So one very good idea is to actually get hold of the data early on. And I would also maybe advise that, even the proposal that you give should be partially influenced by what sort of data you have. And this is only if you are trying to do something data driven, right? So, get your data, see what sorts of things you can reasonably do, or get an idea of what data is available and what you can reasonably do, and then submit something which is not too ambitious. Okay. All right. Administration matters. So, you have to be aware of meetings and deadlines. So so remember that this dissertation is 60 credits, right? So please be aware of deadlines. I mean, there are only two important deadlines to be aware of. One is the deadline for submitting the dissertation proposal, and of course, one is the deadline for submitting the actual dissertation itself. But there are these other maybe deadlines that you are going to have. So, for example, or appointments that you're going to have. So, for example, attending the workshops, having meetings with your advisors, right? So, be aware of when these STATA workshops that are supposed to happen in July are happening, all right? And make it a point to attend them. Talk to your supervisors. So I see, I'm sort of mixed this up myself. I was saying advisor when I meant supervisor, right? So talk to your supervisors and try to keep. So if you have arranged for a meeting, try to attend that meeting. If you cannot attend the meeting, send an email in advance and reschedule the meeting. All right. So take appointments and meetings seriously. Take deadlines seriously. The third part is career planning, and this is to do with kind of your long-term goals, right? So if there is something, so you've been enrolled on this course, you want to sort of specialize in one specific area of economics, and presumably you also want to have a career that's kind of broadly based on that area of economics. So you might want to actually um, have you might actually want to work on a dissertation that's broadly related to that specific thing that you want to work on in the long run, right? So if you have plans of doing, let's say, a PhD, and this is more relevant for I guess people who have a long-term ambition of maybe becoming a researcher, staying in academia, maybe you want to write your dissertation on a topic that you can later sort of expand to a full-blown PhD dissertation, right? So, these are kind of you sort of build into your trajectory, right? Okay, this I've already mentioned, so basically plan ahead, and if you have to send, if you have to reschedule meetings and so on and so forth, please make sure that your supervisor knows about this. If you are unable to attend a meeting, make sure that your supervisor knows about this, and you basically request them to record the meetings if these are group meetings and so on and so forth. And of course, please take notes during meetings. So you might think that you will be able to remember everything, but you are going to forget things, and so it's a good idea to take notes during these supervisor meetings. And of course, please proactively engage with this process. Okay. If you engage with the process, you're going to learn a lot of things, and you're going to do well in your dissertation. And that's going to be invaluable in later on in the job search, in your job search, and so on and so forth. And of course, ask for help. All right. If you don't tell us what is troubling you, we cannot help you. Okay. And so let us know where things are not working out for you when you are attending, for example, the STATA workshops. Tell the instructors what if you've got a preference for certain topics, tell them that you would want to learn ABC, and then they can teach you those topics and so on and so forth. So this is a process where you can really, it's kind of like a boot camp for real life. You can really learn a lot. And so you want to be as thoroughly engaged as possible to take the maximum possible advantage of this. Okay. So yeah, so that is everything, guys. And so I'm going to again sort of maybe wait for you to come back with any remaining questions that you might have. If you don't have any questions, please feel free to leave. If you do have questions, I'm going to hang around and you can ask me any questions. So please feel free to, sort of um, send me questions in the chat, or maybe shout out questions if you don't want to type. Yeah, so your supervisor is going to instruct you on that. All right, so this is very, very context specific. So your supervisor is going to make a call on that.